A very pleasant good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in to O'Neill's Grill for our weekly Fan and Press Luncheon with JMU football coach Everett Withers. The Dukes coming off a loss at William & Mary this past Saturday, 44-41 at Williamsburg at Zabel Stadium. The Dukes will be idle this week. They do have their bye week, do not get back into competition until a week from Saturday. That'll be a contest at Delaware. Coach Withers, with your opening comments, please, this afternoon on your player personnel.
Thanks, Kurt. Injury-wise, came out of the game pretty good. Another physical game, but for the most part, we came out pretty good. Couple updates. Charles Tudd had his surgery last week. He's going to be fine. We're expecting maybe a 4-5 month recovery. Hopefully, we'll get him back by maybe spring practice. Maybe if not, the summer. That'd be good for Charles. We'll get him back and get him going. He should have a full recovery. John Miller has one more doctor's appointment this week, and then hopefully by Friday he's cleared and ready to go for next week's practice. So that's kind of our plan and our hope for that. So those are really the only two issues coming out of this past week. So we should have a pretty good group to go practice Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday this week.
All right, Coach, thank you for that update.
Mm-hmm.
As we measure this program, this team from week to week, during the Richmond loss, you were more disappointed with really the way the Dukes played rather than the loss itself. Can you kind of give us your measure on this loss to William & Mary this past weekend?
I really thought our kids battled and fought hard. I was really proud of them after watching the tape. We fought and we played a really good team. If you have to really look at what we've had to do the last 6 weeks, the last two games may have been the two best opponents in our league, and no disrespect to anybody in our league. I think we just played the two best teams in our league, and I would say that. So I thought our kids played really hard. I'm very proud of the effort. Again, you go on the road and you play a tough team on the road, and it come down to the last couple minutes of the game. Really proud of the way our guys battled.
It's quite natural when a player the caliber of Adley is lost for many to wonder how such a loss will affect a team. You expressed your confidence in Brian Shore even prior to giving him his first career start, certainly by necessity. Did he prove your faith to be correct in him? Yeah,
no question. It's kind of neat to watch a guy that has to sit behind a really talented player. But we talk about taking mental reps, not just physical reps, mental reps. Brian Shore has been the consummate professional in his job. He's taken all the mental reps that you could take, studied the game, done an unbelievable job, and I think it showed on Saturday. He was, I don't think we skipped a beat in what we wanted to do Saturday.
Yeah, that's the next question. The flow and rhythm, did the game differ at all with Shore in there in your mind?
Not to my knowledge, to any of our coaches' knowledge. After watching the film, we thought Brian did a really good job. Obviously the first game, you get a couple different looks that may slow you down. But other than tempo, play calls, execution, he played very well for us. He gave us a chance to win, I'll tell you that.
Well, no doubt there. Coach, one blocked extra point can be chalked up maybe to an aberration, but when you get 3 blocked in a game, there's a problem on execution. Can you tell us what was happening in that?
I can. 2 of the blocks were human error. We got a guy that don't do his job. And the last one was, I can't say this because I'm not supposed to I'll get reprimanded for the second time. You can't hit the center or pull the center through. That was being done.
They eventually called that.
They eventually called it. They should have called it earlier 3 or 4 times. It was eventually called. The guy came through, and the kick was a little low. But eventually, the guys that don't wear uniforms that affect the game got it right.
Very good. William & Mary quarterback Steve Cluley, he had gone 176.
My AD's here right now, so I have to be careful.
Okay, I see. Mr. Bourne. Hello, Mr. Bourne. How are you today? William & Mary quarterback Steve Cluley, he had gone 176 passes without an interception, but the first one he threw was intercepted by Raven Green. He took it back for a score. Can you tell us what happened on that play? Your defense came up with a big play.
They in their offensive scheme on third down, they're not a big vertical passing team. They're more of a horizontal passing team. So we had a coverage call that we worked on the route all week long. He threw it exactly where we knew he was going to throw it, and we intercepted and scored. So great execution on the defense.
And you said weeks ago that this is a journey. You talk about that quite a bit, but also you were saying that when the Dukes were 4-0 and 5-0, you weren't really where you needed to be. When you look back on that, was there a concern then about the defense?
There wasn't necessarily a concern. Here's what I'll tell you, and I just went in the defensive room about an hour ago, and I went in the offensive room about 45 minutes ago. We started 7 sophomores, 3 juniors, and a senior on defense Saturday. That's a pretty young defense. So I have to be careful about getting too impatient. We only have 3 seniors started on offense. So I slept real good last night. JMU football's in real good hands for the next few years. We're going to be fine.
Very good. If Everett Withers has control of the schedule, when would you have that bye week?
Well, I will tell you this, not at week 10 in the schedule. I would not do it then. I don't have control. That's the conference. Here's what I'll tell you. When you have 63 scholarships, you have to be really careful about doing something like that to any team because those 22 that you don't have, I mean, you can do it maybe at the FBS level. That's really tough for FCS school to have a week 10 bye in a 12-week season at our level. So it's really tough to do that. I would say, week 7 is probably the norm. If you're going to play 11 games, week 7, week 6 would be probably about the latest. I think you start getting into week 8, 9, and 10, boy, you really stress a team, especially with 63 scholarships available.
And one final question from me before we turn it over to members of the media here. What will the Dukes do? This is the off week. What do you do differently based upon your typical routine?
We'll split our time between fundamental work, really 3 things. Fundamental work, getting prepared for our next opponent, and then starting spring practice early for our young kids. So we'll use the next 3 days really to start working a lot of our young kids. We'll have team scrimmages with some of our guys that are redshirting. We'll probably have 2 or 3 periods with those guys that they'll just go at it, and we'll give a chance, and it gives us a chance to get a head start on spring practice with those guys.
All right, very good. Thank you, Coach. Turn it over to other members of the media here at O'Neill's Grill for our weekly Fan and Press Lunch with JMU football coach Everett Withers.
Coach, as a follow-up to what Kurt asked about Brian, what is unique about him and his ability on the field that makes him kind of stand out? I know that he looked pretty similar to what Vadley was able to do, but what's, I guess, unique about him as a quarterback?
I just think he's a real student of the game, real attention to detail, sometimes a little bit too much attention to detail guy. He's very particular about a lot of things and wants to be right, exactly right, and sometimes you just got to go play the game. Bad was one of the guys he let the game come to him and he wouldn't play the game. Brian's going to learn to do that the more and more snaps he takes, but for a first outing, I couldn't ask for a better first outing.
How would you evaluate how your team has been able to handle the grind of 9 straight weeks? And is that something that you prepare for going into summer, fall camp, knowing the schedule? You're not going to have a break until week 10.
Yeah, well, one thing you don't know a lot of times at our level what your schedule is going to be as far as buys and that type stuff till late after you start planning what you do. I think knowing what kind of youth we were going to have on our team, and again, I go back to the art of listening. When you talk about not being there yet, you don't know what you're going to be week 7, 8, 9 in the year, especially with the injuries, with fatigue, with the mental strain of being a college student. There's a lot of things that come up. So here's what I'll tell you in evaluating our football team right now. We had a 6-week stretch of SMU, Stony Brook, Towson, Elon, which people better stop sleeping on Elon, okay, Richmond, and William and Mary. You start talking about that stretch there before you go to a bye week, and somebody would tell me that we would be 4-2, I'd take that to Vegas right now.
Coach, for your off week, did you make plans to what you wanted to do and have those differed from what you had planned on doing to where you are now?
Not one bit. we're going to practice. We're going to go get after it Tuesday and Wednesday in pads really hard because I want to see a bunch of our young guys. I want to find out for spring ball where are some of our young guys. One thing that, and I don't know if it's different from what was done here in the past, we coach our young guys. We don't just throw them down to the scout team. We coach our young guys. So we want them to be ready for spring practice and be ready for next training camp. So we're going to get a chance to see kind of where they are. And then Thursday we'll take the pads off. We're going to actually practice Thursday morning, like 6 a.m., and give them Thursday afternoon and Friday and Saturday to go be normal people. So we're going to, the schedule's been planned that way for a while, and we'll keep it that way.
Are there any guys you hope to maybe give a little more extra rest this week and maybe not have us do as much?
Yeah, guys like Dom Richards, who's playing with a shoulder that's not well. We'll try to take care of him. Always the offensive and defensive linemen, they get beat up during the year. You try to take care of those guys as much as you can. But you got to get your work done too. There's nothing like going in a bye week and I know some people, I read somewhere where somebody gave them their whole week off. As a coach, I get real nervous about doing that because, some of the rhythm and some of the things of staying in a flow of the season you have to keep. So we're going to keep a lot of things in rhythm like we normally do.
Talk about Dean Cheatham a little bit. He was not targeted as much on Saturday. Was his role more of a blocker this week? As you've talked about, sometimes the guys have to play different roles on your team.
Yeah, we actually use Dean a little bit more as an inline blocker. And sitting down with our staff yesterday, he did a really good job. I thought he did an unbelievable job of blocking, and hopefully we'll continue. Again, when you've got a new quarterback, you've got to get him familiar with everybody. We got to get Dominic Taylor more involved in our offense. We got to get him more involved. So as Brian gets more comfortable with what we do, and in game situations, we expect Dean to get more catches and Damo to get more catches.
I think last year, as the season went on, people saw improvement in kind of big ways. Is that improvement more subtle these last couple of weeks? Is it happening in ways we can't necessarily see?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's been some improvement in a lot of areas. I think we play better up front on defense this year than we did last year. I think we're doing some better things in the offensive line at this point this year than we did last year. I think we run the ball better at this point than we did last year. I think we've got two really good running backs that run the ball. We're more in flow with our offense this year than we were at this point, in my mind.
But after that Albany game, and that was going into that 6-game stretch you were talking about, you said you weren't a good team. I guess, are you better now? I mean, can you evaluate how far you've come?
I think we're better. I think we're a better football team than we were at Albany.
In what ways? I mean, after that, you seem pretty disappointed. I guess, where are you?
I think we're running the ball better. I think we're playing better up front on defense.
I know you have a hand in kind of all areas of this team, but the way the defense has kind of played the last 2 weeks, do you go to that side of the ball more a little bit during this bye week and look at that a little more closely?
I evaluate the entire football team this week. Every guy that walks in that building gets evaluated this week.
Seemed like William and Mary had some things open across the middle of the field in the passing game, some guys running open there. It seemed like it was there the whole game. Were there adjustments made in that area to slow that down? They
picked us a couple times in man coverage, which happens when man coverage, you get picked sometimes. The first play of the game, the interception for a touchdown was across the route that we picked off for a touchdown. So we played a little bit more cover two in the second half, a little bit more. But yeah, there were adjustments made.
On that final drive, it seemed like they kind of got what they wanted in that area. I mean, was it frustrating to watch them kind of get those same little things and kind of maybe
they're a good football,
dink and dunk it to the
good football team?
Seemed like there's some costly penalties in that game on your secondary, going for the ball and things like that. Are they coached to look for the ball? What did you see out of those guys on some of those deep?
Human element allows the people that don't dress in football helmets to make calls. That's their decision to make. So it's, when you affect the game and you don't wear a football uniform, a helmet, shoulder pads, it's your decision. I will say this, hats off to the ACC for getting it right and making people accountable for their actions.
How much is there any of this on the coaching staff? What part of the how much do you take blame for any of those? I mean, the
take
last
it.
2 weeks.
I take it.
Defensive coaches, is it you take it?
I'm the head coach. I take it.
Okay.
Coach, today Frank Beamer will announce his retirement. I don't know what connections if you have, if any, or if you've ever had a conversation with him, but I was wondering if you can comment on just what he's meant to the landscape of college football and what do you think about what his decision today?
I've been around Coach Beamer an awful lot. He's one of my favorite people in this profession. It's a sad day to see him announce his retirement. People don't know this. Coach Beamer was going to be the head coach at North Carolina. Actually took the job in North Carolina before he took the Virginia Tech job. I know that from firsthand information. He's a great friend. He's a great ambassador for the game. I hope he stays around and stays somewhat involved in Virginia Tech athletics. He's done it right. I looked somewhere today. He's got more wins than a lot of guys. Woody Hayes and some big time guys. He's got a lot more wins. So I'm a huge Coach Beamer fan.
That one play that sticks out is that ball on the kickoff that you guys didn't scoop up and looked like you could have scored on that. Is that some inexperience with your guys, not just following on that, or is that just heat of the battle, not making a play, or what is that?
I don't know how to answer that. I mean, it's just playing the game
Just
that doesn't happen.
A ball bouncing around.
Yeah.
Okay.
Coach, I have another question regarding. You said you're going to start to work spring ball with some of your young guys. Is this also a week for maybe auditioning a few guys that could potentially maybe crack back into the lineup or get back into? Is that on your radar at all?
Well, I mean, anybody that can help us win. It's always all hands on deck. We got the term in our building that it's always all hands on deck. So if a guy can help us win a game, yeah, we'll put him in a situation to help us. I'm not in the market right now taking somebody that hadn't played at all this year and putting him on the field. But if a guy's got some snaps, I mean, we did it this past week. Brandon Herford started this past week. Brandon Herford is a very talented player. We had the opportunity to start him. Gage Steele was a little bit not 100%, so we played Brandon Herford. And I thought Brandon did some good things. He did some not so good things, but he's one of our best linebackers on our team.
So when you're talking about some of the youngsters, these are guys that more than likely are going to go ahead and keep a red shirt on for this year, and we'll see them next year.
Yeah, we got a number of offensive linemen that we signed this past year that haven't played that we want to take a look at. We've got a couple guys on defense that haven't played that we want to take a look at. So, yeah, we want to spend that time to look at those guys.
Coach, I know your philosophy on red shirt. I mean, you want to, if a guy's going to help, they're going to help right away. We see that a lot in the last couple of years. Charles Tutt would be a great example of that, I think. But in an area, are you more prone to maybe red shirt offensive linemen because you still have to grow them up a little bit? They've got to get the weight training. They got to get the muscle on the body. They got to get the weight on the body.
The kids you're going to get at this level of ball in the FCS level usually are probably not ready-made to come in and play. There's only been a handful, I would imagine, that are ready-made to come in and play. So I think our thoughts really on both lines is to try to help those guys grow with a weight program and an off-season so they can go through that grind of this league.
You mentioned Dom had a shoulder injury. Is that affecting his snaps? Is that why we're seeing some consistently high snaps? Or
No.
What is the problem with those? Because I think people wonder what's consistently wrong. Is there something wrong there?
Just not getting the snaps where they need to be.
Is he working on that? I guess it would.
Yes.
It seems like it's been a couple games now. Is it a
Yes.
constant problem?
He's working on it.
Coach, can you talk about having Vad on the sideline and what it meant, not only to Brian, but the rest of your team, having him there and just his experience, because he is a leader of this football team. Just talk about having him there in that environment as an extra coach.
Good. He wanted to be around the team. We're going to travel one less guy just to take him on the trips because he is that leader. He is that guy. He's a great teammate. Guys like him around. You take your guy. When you got a guy like that, you take him on the trips, and he's really good with our football team.
I know you've said maybe you practice special teams more than a lot of teams do.
We do.
The continued struggles on some of those units, I mean, is that a head scratch, or what is kind of is there a common thread on some of those units?
We had a breakdown this past week on PAT. We made a couple really good plays on kickoff, so we're going to get better each week with our special teams. We'll keep working on it.
Is that some of the youth still, or are these guys still finding roles on those units? Can you explain?
Guys still finding roles.
Okay. Kind of the last thing I know, can you explain the philosophy of not having guys, the players available and assistants during the week? Can you explain the past couple of weeks why that has happened?
I would say last week was more about trying to get our guys to focus on preparing. The last couple of weeks, there's been exams, there's been midterms, there's been a lot of stuff going on. Our kids wanted to focus a lot on school and a lot on being a better football player. This past week, we had a member of our media break our rules. And when you break our team rules, you don't get access to our team, and it affects everybody. So when you break our team rules, when you talk to the media, you talk to our players on the sideline, then you don't get access, and nobody gets access. So that's basically how it happens. I saw where Urban Meyer took the scholarship away of his starting quarterback because there was a rule being broken. When you break rules, there's consequences when you break rules.
I mean, you could have come over and stopped that. I mean, nobody told me Vad seemed fine with it. It wasn't like anything was going on.
When there's a rule that says you do not talk to our players until you deal with sports information people, you don't get to do that.
One other question for me, Coach. Any more for any of the other gentlemen? Dave and I, in doing the broadcast, noticed that we thought that Ishmael Hyman played pretty well.
Yeah.
As physical as you can as a wide receiver without getting the ball as much as he did. I thought he blocked and did a lot of things downfield, and he seemed to be one of those that was about as distraught with the loss that anyone that I saw in the locker room.
I will tell you this, the last 2 weeks, Ishmael Hyman's probably been our best football player. He runs down on kickoff. He blocks on the perimeter. He obviously caught a touchdown pass. He's done some unbelievable – I mean, some of that off-schedule stuff, not just catching the ball as a receiver, but all that other stuff that you want your players to do. He's been really, really talented at that. And I'm really, really proud of the way he's kind of grown up and helped their football team.
Okay, very good. Any other from the gentlemen? All right, thank you very much. Again, the Dukes are idle this upcoming Saturday. Their next encounter will be at Delaware on November the 14th. A reminder, next week we will be in our first week of the college basketball season. The men open up on November the 13th. The women open up on November the 15th. The men are on the road at Richmond. The women are at home against Longwood. So next Monday, after we have Coach Withers, we'll also hear from JMU women's basketball coach Kenny Brooks and men's basketball coach Matt Brady. Thank you for joining us all here at O'Neill's Grill on University Boulevard. Have a good week.